So I think regulation as a word is scary for most of people. If you actually see it is nothing but to make things sensitive so that brand or any company is not making any wrong decisions or misusing the content that's available. That regulation doesn't stop you from doing things, it just...
All right, welcome to another episode of Life Sciences 360. My guest today is Kamya Elawadhi, and she is the SVP of Platform and Corporate Strategy at Doceree. Welcome to the show, Kamya.
Thank you, Harsh, for having me.
Yeah, so I've been researching your profile, and as a leader in this healthcare advertising and innovation space, you've really had an impressive career journey. What were some of the challenges that you faced when you were trying to be a leader in this space, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So I started off from advertising communication space. When I was in advertising communication space, I realized the potential of healthcare as an industry, as a category, because in my past experience, I started off with consumer advertising and then I moved to healthcare. And when I moved to healthcare, I realized how much slow healthcare advertising is in terms of consumer, if I have to make a comparison. But gradually I realized the challenges and the conversation that you have in healthcare are really sensitive. And understanding those sensitive nuances of healthcare as an industry made me realize what more can be done in such a regulated environment. And when we started jumping off understanding about healthcare from different countries, I think that was another interesting, good challenge I would call to have, because that really nurtured down the depth of what you can do in healthcare with respect to each market. There are certain markets which are highly regulated that doesn't allow you to talk to consumers or patients at all. And then there are other markets, the other side of the countries that we talk about, who allow you conversation or communication with patient, with physicians, and there's so much data available. So I think those are certain nuances that really help me understand and then take a first step to move towards this whole journey that I have in my career.
Interesting. And as you've been in this space, so for Doceree, what are some of the clients that the company works with? Can you expand on that?
So we work primarily with healthcare and pharmaceutical brands, could be medical devices. Any brand that talks to physician is what our target audience would be, or appropriate client would be for us.
Okay. And what are some of the mistakes that you've seen these clients make in this healthcare advertising space that maybe you help them out in their journey?
It's a very interesting question, Harsh. Recently we were at Digital Pharma East, and then we were talking to a lot of clients that we had and a lot of potential clients. The first and the foremost thing that stood out for me in that event was that how limited understanding we have around data and the use of data that can be done. United States as a country has so much data available in silos, and marketers don't know how to connect that data. That is one thing that I feel that even having the access of data doesn't really give them any confidence. They just don't know how to connect, and that's the biggest mistake while they're planning their next campaign or next actions for any brand.
Yeah, I agree with you, because being in this life sciences space, I work mostly in quality, regulatory, and compliance. But I would agree with you on the same idea that, yes, there's a lot of data. It's not that there's shortage of data. There's also not a shortage of quality data, because the data that companies have is very good. The shortage or the common challenge that everyone's facing is how to make a decision using that data, right? So when the time comes to make a decision, whether it's about marketing, advertising, compliance, they have to go to 5 different systems or get 5 people to get a simple answer, when it should be data at their fingertips, or not at least within 30 minutes, they should be able to figure out, So I've seen the same challenge.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what we try and we are trying to solve, so that we bring in all data that's available in silos to a healthcare marketer and bring that to a single platform, so that, It's easier to use, easier and faster to create analytics around. So that's what our entire effort is toward making marketers' life easier when it comes to data. I like to believe that, most of healthcare marketers have this concept called data blindness. Even if everything is in front of us, we don't really know how to connect. Apart from connecting, we don't know how to read or decode that data. We just like to grab that data and sit over it for a long time.
Yeah, data blindness. I've not heard of that term before, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. So with the, obviously we mentioned about data, and because you mentioned about data, I have to go sort of into AI and generative AI and machine learning, because most companies that are dealing with data, they are going to use AI or natural language processing in some capacity, whether it's marketing or drug discovery or whatever it is. So have you done any like proof of concepts or pilots or tested out AI internally?
So yes, we have actually worked on some of AI and machine learning tools. We are working and evaluating some planning tools which can be utilized, as we were talking about how data is available in abundance and people don't know how to utilize that data. So our planning tool will help marketers to identify the right source of data, bring it together to put a marketing plan together for next year, for next year. And they can do it through different channels, different type of targeting that they want to achieve. So those are certain things that we want to do. But our ultimate goal to reach is to create open network ecosystem where marketers can bring in the partners they are working with already, bring them and integrate in one system so that they don't have to only work with us. They don't have to disconnect whoever they are working with. They can integrate their buy for the ease, for the comfort that they have with other partners, and connect it in as one open network for themselves so that they can understand. Think it more like an iOS. When you have a new phone, you keep downloading different apps as per your requirement. You can personalize your whole experience how you want to build it. And that's how we see Doceree as a whole, where we want to become like that system for any pharma marketer, where they can add multiple different apps or partners that they work with and integrate and make it more like a seamless experience for themselves.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's the interest analogy that you made with the iOS. And as we're talking earlier, you mentioned, the challenges with being in a regulated space, and every country has different regulations of what you can do and cannot do. So how does your team constantly be in the loop of all these changing regulations that are happening in this space?
So I think regulation as a word, as a term, is scary for most of people. If you actually see, it is nothing but to make things sensitive so that brand or any company is not making any wrong decisions or misusing the content that's available. That regulation doesn't stop you from doing things. It just help you to do it in a more sensitive environment. And I would say we have a dedicated team of paralegals who regularly work and monitor the kind of changes that are happening, because we are right now present in multiple continents, multiple countries. So we cover, from Asia we cover approximately 20 countries. From UK office we cover all EU5 as well, which is again a sensitive market. And from US we cover Canada. So we are in a space where we have to understand different market aesthetics, different market regulation to keep ourselves abreast, and we have dedicated team to do that.
And I've seen the similar challenge on my side, also keeping up with different regulations. Again, I agree with you, when we utter the word regulation or compliance, people just have like a very it's not a negative, but it's like a concerning or a stressful feeling, because it's like they have to do something which they're not going to like. But the other way of looking at it is most regulations, again, might be too simplified or a generalized statement, but most regulations are just business sense, right? And I had some other guest on the podcast who said, what if tomorrow FDA or EU came and whatever regulations popular in your industry or your space, they just took that regulation and said, you know what? Just forget that this regulation existed. Do what you want. What would everyone do, right? Like we would think of all the risks. We would think of all the things that could go wrong. So a regulation has already done that. It's not, it's not a negative thing. In some cases, it's just what's practical, what's common sense, protecting patients' data, protecting sensitive data. So that's how I look at it when people have that stressful feeling with the word. So I've had this discussion with many people who work in the regulated space. And one of the frustrating parts that they all mentioned, which I'm sure you faced at some point, either in your role or just within the company, how do you follow regulations and still be innovative, right? Because people complain, oh, I cannot follow the regulations and do something new. So can you explain maybe a case study or an example of how you've been in that situation and how did you balance the regulation and the innovation?
Interesting. I think Doceree as a concept itself is something which is innovative in a nature and where you are in front of HCP right when they are with the patient. That itself is something which I would call as an innovation, because earlier, if you see, we were in a single channel approach where a physician would meet a rep and have a conversation about that pharma brand, and there was no checkpoints or check mechanism we had.
Yeah.
Then we started going to a multi-channel approach where there were different channels to reach out to that physician. Could be event, could be reps, could be any other medium. And then we started cross-channel and then now omni-channel. There's so many buzzwords that we keep talking about. But at the same time, I think throughout, we have always focused to keeping patient as in a center and the universe of healthcare revolved around that. Right now, our whole approach is towards making HCP as a single center and then touching upon multiple channels to reach to that physicians and making that seamless journey and making that connection from his 7 a.m. coffee, having a conversation with a peer, or that those entire day's journey can have a multiple touch point. And that itself is something I would call as innovation, because earlier that was not available. Even if it was available in some sense, I would not say it was available in 100% sense. But even if micro pieces were available, there was no way to connect it. That my HCP saw that one message in the morning. Now I want to buzz that HCP again one more time in afternoon or evening so that I'm better on recall. It was all dependent on brick and mortar approach where a rep will go visit the office, identify the time. They might talk, might not talk. You don't know that. So those things which were not there itself and now it's coming, I will say that is innovation for me.
Right. Yeah, it's happening in many spaces. You mentioned like more personalized, more touch points and not like a generic or traditional approach. I've also seen this happen in the clinical trial space with patient enrollment and things of that nature, where a lot of digital tools are being used to have like a more personalized experience. So this is something I have to ask you, because you mentioned that, you have teams in different places, you have clients in Asia, Europe. First of all, how do you get all the people on your team internally to work in a collaborative manner or to have that single focus? Because being in different corners of the world, just hiring people in India versus Europe is all different, right? So how do you go about building like a collaborative team that always has like a single vision to work on?
Interesting. So we have a robust onboarding process. We have HR who would walk each employee through the processes, through the channels, make the initial introductions bit to the company where they can come to a level of understanding. And then we also do a buddy program which means that somebody who's coming new in the system is accompanying or shadowing another employee who's already existing in system. So that just help and make sure that, new person who's joining in, maybe from a different country, maybe from a different region, and working on your campaigns, your programs in your country. So you can just partner with them to understand, and that becomes like a springboard. Whenever you have a question, you go to that buddy. Whenever you have any concern, anything that is not clear, you go to that buddy. So that buddy program has really helped us, building that collaborative team. And we also have a lot of in-house town halls that we keep doing on culture, on different aspects of mentoring. So that's something which is prime focus in Docere for us, because I know it's such a big challenge to bring everyone from different places together and hold them together. It has never been easy. We were one person team we have grown to approximately 150 team members across. So it is good number of employees we have been able to retain and onboard successfully, I would say.
Wow, that's really impressive. And there's so many things that come into play, right? It's the job description, roles and responsibilities is one thing, but when you're dealing with somebody that lives in a different country or continent, whatever, there's cultural, family, just different rules like paid time off versus vacation. I know there are some countries in Europe that have different vacation policies, and they're very strict about their vacation. They don't like being bothered when they're on vacation, versus in US, it's more like, okay, I'll have my phone or laptop, but I'm going on vacation. So I've seen that working in different big pharmaceutical companies, working with people in Denmark or Switzerland, all these Asia or other countries. So yeah, it's always a challenge to get work done despite of all the different factors in play.
But I think digital connectivity or virtualization really have helped a lot, because early on it was difficult to bring everyone on same platform or connect together.
Yep.
Now it's much easier because people have started to accept mobility is not a barrier to any job.
Right.
You can be anywhere and still finish your job. So I think COVID has really helped us nurture that way, to help us think that way, that, even if we are not in actual office space, we can still be working. And it's pretty normal because of COVID. There are certain good things that COVID has taught us, and it's one of those good things where mobility is not a barrier anymore.
Right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that most of the clients, when I started working with our company as well, with Cultivate in consulting space, majority of the clients that we started working with from day one have been remote. Now, eventually, once we started working with the clients, we had somebody fly in or go to drive or wherever the client is. But mobility was never a barrier in choosing us or any consultant from our team, because we all knew how to get the job done, right? So yeah, I agree that COVID was an experiment for this remote work and working from like different places. And some people have gone back to the office environment because it wasn't working for their style of work. And other companies have adopted that this is the new way to work.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're talking about this topic. I recently got to know that there are digital nomad profiles which company have started posting, where you can work from any place. So they don't call it remote working anymore. They call it digital nomad profiles. So it's really interesting for me to see those changes coming in. Even from the words and terminology, it has evolved a lot.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned the word digital nomad, because I'm actually traveling for business in first week of October. And I'm going to be gone for at least 2 months outside the US. So I'm traveling to Europe and Asia. And I've been looking at a lot of hotels or just searching like Airbnbs. And I see that word everywhere, like perfect accommodation for a digital nomad, or, perfect working space for a digital nomad, great Wi-Fi, or even health insurance. I was looking at, okay, if I'm leaving US and if I'm going to Europe with my family, I should have like a backup international health insurance or something. And there are specific health insurance just for digital nomads that cover all the main countries where most startups are, like Amsterdam, London, like all the places in Europe, in India, they cover all of the cities. So I'm already seeing a lot of businesses who are channeling in on that keyword because they know that that's what people are looking for.
Yeah. And I have a couple of my colleagues who do that, who travel and who, work in, send out emails, right, sitting out of beach, shack or something, some places. And I see their social persona as well as their, professional persona. And it's beautiful how amazingly they have tried to balance it. It's not something that I would be comfortable doing, or because I am in that still old zone where I want to have schedule and structure my day,
Yep.
have a cutoff time, all of that. But it's wonderful to see people how everyone is evolving, and some people have strike their balance between travel and working. So it's nice. It's different change. Good for some people who have accepted and moved to that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So looking forward in this healthcare advertising and innovation space, what do you see as some of the emerging trends? Where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you planning to stay ahead of that curve?
So I think there are a lot of innovation that's happening around, the likes of ChatGPT, the likes of decoding physicians' messaging, social listening for physicians specifically within point of care system. Those are things which are really, really interesting. And we see right now we are still in phase where we are accepting digital. Digital has not become like a primary plan of any pharmaceutical brand team or marketers. I think that is one change which I see happening because of the availability, because of the acceptability, and how it is not a push mechanism for marketing, more like a pull mechanism. Whenever HCP requires something they can see, those things will, I think, really help and are something which I see happening in next 1 to 5 years.
And how is your team trying to like stay ahead of that trend? Are you participating in like maybe roundtables or speaker sessions or conferences just to talk to other leaders in this space and bounce off ideas and stuff like that?
Yes, we are actively doing that. In fact, we have a next marketing initiative, an industry initiative where we try to bring these kind of topics together and have a different cut towards presenting that. We recently published a book around that in point of care space. Then we have a chat show going on right now, and we are working towards other similar initiatives where we are doing innovation lab, or doing something which marketers can be part of in sharing their opinion, feedback, and how we as an industry we can evolve. So we are actively doing those kind of initiatives within the care.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if you want to share any of those links for, so we can add that in the show notes for the audience to check out, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was really great. I don't talk to many people. I don't think I've ever had anybody on the show about this topic. So it was really a lot of learning for me, and I'm sure the audience are going to have something new than the normal episodes that I do. So thank you so much for your time to come on to the show. Where can people find with you or connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
So I am available on LinkedIn to connect. Our website do have our immediate connections with different team members, including me. So those are two spots where I can be reached out.
All right. And before we wrap this up, any final thoughts that you want to add for the audience listening, or anything you want to share before we wrap this up?
I think one message that I wanted and I thought, I will speak about is something about how I have evolved over time and what has helped me evolve over time. I started reading a lot, and that reading really helped me and transformed me who I am right now. So I spend 30 minutes every day to read about industry, to read about what's happening around in the category itself. And that has really pushed me forward, 5 years forward. I think that is something that I would want to leave as a final thought for listeners, because that is something that has helped me, and I feel that it can help marketers as well. Considering that we always look at 3-year plan, 5-year plan, if you're reading something which is absolutely available right now, which can impact your 5-year plan, please go ahead and read. Spend that 30 minutes. It's a life-changing thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got into reading mostly during COVID. I never did much of reading before that. But during COVID, I did a lot because I got the extra 2 hours from the commuting that I didn't have to do. And, plus also my son was born during COVID. So I had a lot of times where I was up at night watching the monitor while he was sleeping. And I obviously I didn't want to be on the devices all day. So I was like, okay, I need to stop looking at my computer and look at a book. And then I picked up, and it was hard at first, but after a week or two, I just started, picking up different topics. And another hack that I got from one of my friends here is, if you are not sure about which book or author you want to read, you can always go and buy a book on Amazon. I'm sure Amazon's done a terrific job of sending you the book within 48 hours, but you can also go to a public library and just get a bunch of books. That's what I do. I'm in California and also in North Carolina. I have the library card, so I go and just get 15, 20 books, and I just scan through them. And if I don't like it, I return. If I do, then I'll invest in buying the money for that author. So that's just a hack I learned from my friend.
I'm thinking about creating a community library at my home where kids can come and we have a repository of books. Whoever is not reading or can change or return, recycle. So we are considering opening that shortly. So I'm hoping to start that by next summer.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't met a single person who has said that reading is not good for them. So yeah, definitely, reading's one of the best.
It has changed my life, evolved me so much.
Yep. Thank you so much, Kamya. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I can't wait for the audience to hear this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Have a great day.